Hello, this is Alex. This is a short video on how we can create a sales process, very simple, for software and for SaaS companies. The sales process is a 5-step sales process. It's a very summarized sales process. It's a very simplified sales process. So if you want to go in depth and find additional information on how specific steps are constructed, visit my website alexvalasidis.com, and there you can get more information on how you can create analytically a sales process and define also all the specific elements of the sales process. This video does not intend to go in depth. It intends to be a short video and explain how you can easily, in 5 steps, create a sales process that is going to bring results on your engagement with software and SaaS companies. So let's start. So the first step that you need to take in order to be able to create the sales process is to define the characteristic that compose this sales process. And by characteristic, I mean the product, the market, the companies that you want to target, and finally, which decision makers you want to engage in the sales process. So let's have a look. So what regards the product? You need to define first what are the products and the solutions or the software that you want to promote and you want to sell. What are the characteristics of your products? So write them down. Which are the characteristics of your products? What is the price of your product compared to the competition and compared to the environment where your product identifies itself and where your product wants to compete? Where do you stand compared to the competition? Most importantly, the most important thing, however, is define which are the unique selling points of your product. What makes your product different? Why should somebody choose your product and not the product of the competition? That is a very, very, very important characteristic, a very important element that you have to notice. I see every day lots of companies, mostly in red oceans, that means in very competitive markets, that they come out with a solution that it's a very like everybody else presents, nothing different. So why should somebody choose you? What is this element that makes your solution, your software different? So once you defined the characteristics of the product, then you need to define which markets you would like to target and why you would like to target those markets. What information do you have about specific markets, territories, and jurisdictions? Would you like to target Europe? Would you like to target the US? If Europe, which countries in Europe and why? What is the size of those markets that you would like to target? Do you want to target markets in a specific industry? Do you want to target markets in a variety of industries, but markets that are geographically located somewhere? So set up first which markets you would like to target, under which criteria and which characteristics. Find out what are the challenges in those markets. Are there cultural barriers? Are there language barriers? Are there seasonal difficulties? So let's say you start a campaign to sell your solution in Europe in July. Europe in July, it's not a good month to start a sales campaign. And the reason why, it's obvious. Everybody is on holidays. So you don't want to start a campaign like that in July. You would prefer to start a campaign like that in September. If you, however, target South America, or if you target Australia, then maybe July is the proper month to start engaging, because they have a different season. So think about the different variables that influence specific markets. Once you identify the markets, identify which companies would you like to target and why. What is the size of those companies? Is the size important? Yes, the size is very important. And the size is very important for a variety of reasons. So the first thing that you would think is, okay, a company with a bigger size is going to generate more money, it's going to have a higher revenue, so it's potentially a better client. I don't know if that's a better client. Is it? Maybe your solution targets smaller, medium companies. The second very important question that you need to ask about the size of the company is, with whom do I need to speak? So the bigger the company, the more complex the process of identifying who the proper decision maker is in this company. So in smaller companies, if it's a company of 10, 20 people, then it's easy to speak directly to the CEO. He's going to be the proper person. He's going to be the final decision maker. In contrary, on a big corporation, the CEO is certainly not the proper person to speak to. So think about the culture on those companies. Think about the complexity in the companies that you want to target. And finally, which are the players that you want to target and to engage in this sales process? Which are the decision makers that you want to target? What is their role in the company? Are they the final decision makers, or are they co-decision makers? Which alternative players are in the company? So let me give you here some information on how to choose the decision makers. So again, depends on a variety of factors. Is the company a big company, or is it a smaller company? Is the decision maker that you are targeting the final decision maker, or he is a co-decision maker within a group of decision makers? Do you want to target immediately the ultimate decision maker or not? The reason why I'm asking this is because if you target immediately the final decision maker and you get a no, then there is no playroom anymore. Identify, besides the final decision maker or the ideal decision maker that you would like to first contact, peripheral decision makers, or players that they are connected with the decision maker that you would like to approach. So for example, if you want to approach a sales manager, then this guy is very difficult to reach out, then find some salespeople, some regional country managers that have a direct relation to him, and maybe through them you could reach out to him. So once you identify all those, once you define those variables, the product, the market, the company, and the decision makers, then go on step number 2. And the step number 2 is create the communication that you want to have with these prospects. And the first part of communication that you need to create is the sales pitch. And the reason why the sales pitch is the first part of communication that you need to create is because the sales pitch is this document, is this written information that is going to be transmitted to the decision maker and is going to be used as a reference to create also other communication. So let me show you how a sales pitch looks like. It looks something like this. So the needed information, it's being put here on the sales pitch. The sales pitch, it's always a reference. The sales pitch on a software sales engagement is never a sales pitch that it's not a script that somebody's going to read. So you put all the information on the sales script. You put all the information on the sales pitch, potential objections, qualification questions, information about the product. So your sales agent reads the sales pitch, he understands the sales pitch, and after he understands the sales pitch, he puts that by side and has it as a reference. He doesn't use the sales pitch as a script. Now, once you have the sales script ready, then you are going to create the next step, which is the automated email sequence that you are going to send to your prospects. So, what is the automated email sequence? Let me tell you first that I'm an old school sales guy and I don't believe on emailing. I believe on meeting people in person, or if that's not possible, on calling people, and that's what works best in this new world that we live in. So, but it's important to create an automated email sequence, and the reason why it's important is for two reasons. First of all, you might get an answer. Okay, so you send an email wave, let's say, of 50 emails, and maybe some people are going to answer and tell you, sounds interesting, call me back at this time, and then we can have a deeper discussion. But the most important thing that the automated email sequence creates is, first of all, you can see who opened the email and who clicked the email, and that gives you some indication on how interested potentially a prospect is or not. The most important factor, however, is that it warms up the cold call that is going to follow up. So in that way, the prospect is going to be somehow prepared to receive your call. Now, important here is to send emails, automated email sequences, always in waves. So if you have, like, let's say, a list of 500 prospects that you want to email, don't email 500 prospects with one shot. And the reason why you shouldn't do that is because when the time comes to call prospect number 500, 2 months have passed and there is no reference anymore. So split these 500 in 10 batches, 10 waves of email that you are going to send. In my company, vParagon, we send an email sequence of three emails, and those emails are being sent within 3 weeks. So it's that's the way we do it. You don't need to send 3 emails. You can send maybe 2 emails. I wouldn't send, however, more emails than that, then, because the emails that are being sent on the email sequence are very simple emails. And let me give you here some information. So that is how an email looks like. It looks very, very simplified. So you can see here how simple it looks. So yeah, it has 3 paragraphs. It doesn't give a lot of information about the product. And the reason why it's being said so simple is because no one is going to read a long email. Okay. Also, as you might notice, I don't use graphics on these emails. Graphics is one reason why firewalls keep emails for not reaching out your potential prospect. So put only wording, keep it as simple as possible. So 2-3 paragraphs is enough, and send it. The power of the email is not what you think it is. It is not. Sales are generated from the calls that an effective salesperson does, not from the emailing. It helps, but it's not what makes the difference. Another reason why you should send this email sequence is because it gives you an alibi on the question that the secretary is going to ask you. Potentially the gatekeeper is going to ask you the question, does Mr. Miller knows what it regards? So you can answer confidently that Mr. Miller knows what it regards because you sent him already an email. So that's also another reason for this email. So once you create this automated email sequence based on the sales pitch that you created initially, then what you do is you create a personalized explanatory email. This email is a long analytical email. Maybe it's going to be attached on this email a PDF. You create this personalized explanatory email in order to have it ready as a template, which is going to be, of course, adjusted, and you are going to send this email after you had a conversation with your prospect. So another thing that you create is the LinkedIn communication that you are going to have with your prospect. And let me show you here something that is very important. So let's assume you want to contact a potential lead. So the first thing that you do is you connect, you go here, you press the connect button, and once you press the connect button, it asks you add a note or just send. Just send, don't add a note. Through my experience, 20 or 30% of the connect requests that you send are going to be accepted, and with those guys that you connect create a connection, you have a different channel to communicate with. Most of the world uses LinkedIn. There are specific territories that use other platforms. In Germany, they use Xing. Use Xing. It's a good tool. So you create this LinkedIn communication. You connect with the guy that you want to call prior of your call, okay? And you create also a sales navigator message, and you create a sales navigator message. The reason why you do that is because if all this communication that you did, the emails that you're going to send, the telephone calls that you're going to do, didn't bring any results, then finally you can send a message via Sales Navigator, and we want to exhaust every possible communication through the channels. So after you create the LinkedIn communication message, you create, yes, as I said, you create the Sales Navigator. You create the Sales Navigator message. So once you have all these steps ready, then what you do is you set up the sales process. So you create a diagram where you explain the sales process, and a diagram where you explain the sales process looks like this. Okay, I use a tool called diagrams draw.io. There are a variety of tools out in the market. Some are paid tools, other ones are free tools. So for me, this one works very good. So that is how a sales process looks like. So in our methodology is to create 5 telephone calls. Here you see the marketing email. So the marketing email is the email sequence that we created. The first email is being sent prior of the telephone call. Then the first telephone call is being placed, and accordingly to the outcome of the telephone call. So if you call and you manage to speak with the guy and he agrees on a discovery call. So if you place, I'm sorry for this. So if you place a telephone call and the person that you want to speak accepts to have a discovery call, you go direct here. If he has no answer, then you place a second telephone call. In the meanwhile, the second marketing email has been sent. If he says no, then you should try to find and contact alternative players in the company, depending on the size of the company, depending on the project. Or if he says no, and he's the ultimate decision makers, then it's a loss. And I hope this sales process makes sense to you. It can differ. Our methodology is to place 5 telephone calls. We call our prospect every 2-3 days. The last telephone call is being placed 14 days after telephone call number 4. The reason why we do that is because we want to eliminate the fact that he can be on holidays, the decision maker that we want to speak. If nothing comes, we send a sales navigator message, and you can see here after we have the online call, we send the offer and we follow up until we close the sale or the sale is being lost. So you set up the sales process, and once you set up the sales process, you go on the 4th and the most important step of all, and this step is to execute, because all theory is nice and it's important, but with no execution everything remains a dream and remains a theory. So then you execute. You start emailing and you start calling your prospects and you start generating sales for your company or for the company you represent. Execution is the most important step. This world is being made from doers, not from thinkers. And if you don't feel ready after step 3, my advice is execute. Execute. Regardless how ready you feel, execute. And once you execute, we're going to come on the 5th step, which is very important as well, and is once you execute for a couple of weeks, reevaluate. How does the sales process go? What you do correct, what you do wrong, where you can improve, where you can apply changes and optimize the sales process, apply those changes and execute again. So when you are ready to start engaging the market, let me tell you this, and that is very important. Never, ever, ever in the world are you going to be completely ready. Never. Never you are going to have a perfect plan. Work on the plan, make it as good as possible, brainstorm within your company, talk with other colleagues, exchange opinion, put all this information that you have on a plan, create your sales process, create your sales speech, create your email sequence, practice for a certain period of time, and then, regardless how ready you are, start engaging the market and start selling. Have a beautiful day.